Fennell, welcome to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you're doing well.
I am doing fine, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Looking forward to sort of getting your thoughts on a lot of different things. We'll start out with this Alabama group going into this NFL draft. Maybe the guy that catches your eye the most that can be the next big superstar in the NFL.
Oh, well, you guys have 10 players headed to the Combine next week. We're exactly a week away. We're in the thick of draft season, and this is where your Alabama prospects usually come to play and really shine. There's a handful of guys that can be that next superstar, from the Jonathan Allens of the world, the O.J. Howards, Marlon Humphrey. A lot of people like Reuben Foster going in the front end of the first round. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Cam Robinson fall into the first round. You guys have a lot of prospects with some great potential.
Let me start with Reuben Foster. Last week we learned that he's going to have a shoulder procedure there done on his shoulder. How do you think that will affect his draft status?
You know, I think scouts and evaluators know what you're getting with Reuben Foster. He has enough on-the-field experience and playtime film to really gauge what type of player he's going to be. There isn't that mystery around him on what he's going to run. I think you can get a good sense of his skill set off of the tape. And, you know, I think he's a much better prospect than what Reggie Ragland was last year. It's very easy to group the two together, just thinking Alabama off-the-ball linebackers. But the extra dimension that Reuben Foster has in his game and his athleticism and his ability to cover on third downs and play special teams, I think that's very, appealing to a lot of NFL circles.
Let me go back to Jonathan Allen coming back for his senior season. Nobody knows exactly how much money this guy will make versus what he would have made last year coming out. But was it the wise decision for him to come back?
You know, I don't think you could ever fault the kid for coming back to school. I love that decision. I just think it oozes maturity. It oozes responsibility. He wants to finish, what he started there, get his degree, and really finish out his time in college. And I wish more players would embrace the college atmosphere, the college culture, and soak it in while it's there. I know everybody's eager to go to the real world and make some money and welcome yourself to all those bills and, just having money come in the door and out the door. But I think it's refreshing to see a guy enjoy his college experience and go back for a senior year.
When you look at O.J. Howard, how much money do you think when you look at what he was able to do at the Senior Bowl? He's going to test well next week. He's going to go in. He's a physical freak. I mean, when he takes off the shirt, I mean, he's built like an NFL tight end. How much when you look at O.J. Howard, what do you think he could be a difference in the NFL?
Yeah, you said it. He definitely has that Greek god type of chiseled physique and broad frame. And I think of all the Alabama prospects, he probably has the greatest upside because he was really underutilized in Alabama. He really wasn't involved in their passing game. It was obviously more of a run first, and they schemed him open in a variety of ways to get the ball in his hands, but they didn't really use him as a down-the-field threat and the matchup nightmare that he could be in the NFL. I think we're really just starting to see what he can do with some of his reps and one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. He's going to test off the charts of the Combine, and I'd imagine he'll slip into the mid-first round and be a day-one starter and probably be a matchup nightmare right from the jump.
When you look at the NFL, the way that you cover it right now, we're talking to Ben Fennell, NFL Network, ESPN, as we talk a little college football, NFL draft with him. As you look right now at a new coordinator here arriving in Tuscaloosa, I'm just curious if you've crossed paths. What do you know about Brian Daboll there, the tight ends coach at New England, now going to be the new OC here in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, Daboll's hopped around the NFL for a good decade and a half with a number of teams, and he's been in a number of different schemes and systems. It's tough to get a gauge with the positional coaches because you want to think it's the offensive coordinator's baby and it's his scheme and his system. So I'm assuming he's going to bring some of that Josh McDaniels food of thought and type of thinking to Alabama, which, is kind of similar to what they have already. You want multiple backs in the backfield, multiple tight end sets, and try to get matchups, across the middle of the field and to see if you can get your running backs caught in the passing game. And I think what Daboll brings from New England will translate well to Alabama.
Ben, I'm curious as you're going back and you're looking at tape and a lot of people, I'm watching this NFL draft evaluators, and you guys spend hours and hours of breaking down film and looking at plays. I know there's been some strong comments towards Jalen Hurts. I'd love to sort of get your perspective on the freshman quarterback here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, this is a very, widely debated. I'm sure you guys talk about it all season long down there in Tuscaloosa, and it's a very tough argument because you're grading the position. You don't want to grade the player in a sense of where he is. You don't want to put that red flag on him, say he's a freshman, so I need to grade him like a freshman. But I'm a fan of traditional quarterback pocket play. I want to see a conventional West Coast type of quarterback playing from the pocket, getting the ball out of his hands, making the right reads, and being accurate. Now, Jalen Hurts brings an extra dimension to their offense, and this is what I call the Johnny Manziel effect from 2012. You're now having to make defenses account for the QB runs. You're now moving the pocket with much more rollouts, much more boots, the jet sweeps, the read options. It's a whole new world of offense that we've seen in Alabama with the mobile quarterback. And conversely, Nick Saban has also stressed having faster, more athletic linebackers and safeties to combat opposing mobile quarterbacks. But with that extra dimension that Jalen Hurts brings to the offense, you lose a dimension of the quarterback in being a true passer. He doesn't particularly process things quickly. He doesn't anticipate throws. He kind of lacks velocity as far as just firing the ball with speed. Really has to gather himself to make these throws. He's not really a quick twitch thrower. So I just felt that the passing game, strictly the passing game, really suffered with Jalen Hurts this past season.
When you look at Ardarius Stewart, you look at O.J. Howard, will the NFL draft guys, the managers, the scouts that are part of these organizations, will they take that in consideration when evaluating guys like Ardarius Stewart and O.J. Howard?
Yeah, absolutely. The scheme is certainly considered, and the quality of the quarterback play is certainly considered when you're working in some of these skilled players. I see a Calvin Ridley, who's obviously not coming out this year, and an Ardarius Stewart, similarly to Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry coming out of LSU. They didn't necessarily have that quarterback to feed them the ball, but the second they got to those, all-star games, the combines, and the scouts started to put on the tape, and you look at these guys in a vacuum, in a bubble, you say, wow, they have a very, very advanced skill set, and they can definitely produce to the next level. Why didn't they produce in college? And then you start looking at, hey, was the scheme maybe a run first? Was the quarterback maybe not that strong of a passer? And there's some, outside factors that scouts will certainly work through.
Ben, as I look at Lane Kiffin, this is my words. This is not what you're saying, but looking at Jalen Hurts.
Hey, I'll say it if it sounds good.
Okay, all right. So you can agree with me, but looking at Lane Kiffin at times, I think he was lazy with the quarterback development. I think Lane Kiffin is a brilliant play caller. He gets a little lazy sometimes on the player development side of things. How much the way that Jalen performed that we could go back and look at Lane Kiffin maybe not connecting the dots with player development with Jalen Hurts?
It's tough. I'm strongly against this whole transfer epidemic of quarterbacks. Everybody wants to hop around from school to school and find that right fit for your given skill set. I don't feel like quarterbacks are maturing and developing from entering as a freshman to a senior. I feel like too many recruiting coordinators and teams want to find that high school senior or find that transfer to plug in rather than groom them naturally and develop them naturally to fit your system. It's too much of a plug-and-play type of mentality that we want a finished product out there rather than grooming and teaching and coaching and learning and trying to maturate their skills to what you want them to do. Yeah, certainly not all recruits are going to pan out, and some are going to plateau and maybe not develop like you thought they would. But, I just thought Lane Kiffin did a great job to take that quarterback skill set, Jalen Hurts' skill set, and find out what does he do well? What's an advantage to us? Obviously, his athleticism, his mobility, using his legs. And Lane Kiffin found ways to change the offense to garner to his skill set. Now, with that being said, I wish that some of those quarterbacks that had been there for maybe 2-3 years had developed and were given a better opportunity to run that offense. But it is what it is.
But when you see Jalen Hurts, is it things that he can correct with a guy that, a quarterback coach during the offseason? I mean, are these correctable things that you're talking about?
They're certainly correctable, but I just don't know what the emphasis is on the actual passing mechanics in the passing game at the position. He's obviously very athletic. They get the guy out of the pocket. They work him into a lot of RPOs and running plays to get him on the move. And I just feel like the quarterback skill set of being a true passer gets a little bit diluted when you work in all the dual threat and RPO aspects of the quarterback position. You really lose some of those skill sets and those refining qualities that make the quarterback a passer and a distributor first. I just don't think that's what Jalen Hurts is.
Well, Ben, I go back and I certainly, man, I'm always welcome to other opinions. You went back to the USC. You had a big prediction back with Jalen Hurts that you don't think he ends his college game in that position as far as a quarterback. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, right off that first game against USC and even week 2 into Western Kentucky, his skill set and his athleticism was eye-popping from the get-go. You know he's a tremendous athlete. You know you want the ball in his hands. I'm not doubting that he's going to be a terrific college player, but I'm thinking the ball in his hands aspect is probably where you want him. He should probably be a skilled player, see if you can move him to running back or maybe a slot receiver, find ways to get him the ball and be athletic, and then find someone else to maybe be a better distributor of the football to get these skilled players involved. I know there's a big rumor and kind of debates about whether this freshman coming in is going to challenge him for the position. But again, he's a dual threat type quarterback, actually an inch shorter, and I feel like you're going to fit him into a similar scheme of wanting to have the mobile quarterback, make defenses account for the quarterback runs, and I think the passing aspect of the offense is going to suffer.
And you look at Jalen Hurts here for just a couple of minutes. He's not a very tall guy. He's probably – they list him at 6'2". That means he's probably about 6'1". I mean, they stretched him out. The first thing he woke up and his bones have not settled down. He might be 6'1.5". But how much of that being able to see over those big offensive linemen could be affecting his game?
Oh, absolutely, and it's evident on the tape. He doesn't make many throws over the middle. They don't throw a whole lot of over routes or slants or passes between the numbers. Seems like he struggles finding a throwing lane and a window to place his throws through. We've seen him struggle to throw over defenders like he did against Derek Barnett in Tennessee, where he was able to tip it up to himself and intercept it. And it's no accident that the NFL doesn't particularly draft or bring in players under 6'3". It's a huge anomaly to have the Russell Wilsons and the Drew Breeses of the world who are 6'1" and maybe even 5'11" of the world. Those guys just don't exist. It doesn't happen. It's very difficult to be a 6'1" quarterback and expect to throw over Division I offensive and defensive linemen. I was a quarterback growing up. I'm only about 5'11", 6 foot. I had to stop playing after my freshman year of high school because I couldn't throw over the line. It just, just kind of the nature of the position. You stop growing and it just doesn't work.
Ben, how much do you get when you're evaluating, or how much do you give when you're evaluating a Nick Saban player coming through what we like to refer as the 33rd NFL franchise, the way that they come to? I mean, they run this like a pro system. How much do you give a player for playing under the Nick Saban system? When he arrives at the NFL, he knows how to play the game of football.
Yeah, I mean, you build a reputation on players you can trust and players from certain coaches you can trust, or you know that their technique is stressed every day, that certain fundamentals are stressed every day. And, Nick Saban is one of those coaches, and it's, he comes from that Bill Belichick tree of stressing tackling on a daily basis. And once you find a coach in a program that's consistently producing well-rounded players, you'd be a fool to not stick with those players.
Hey, Ben, I'm just really curious. We're hanging our hat on A.J. McCarron in the NFL as far as the quarterback position. What do you think about Mr. McCarron?
Yeah, I've heard his name come up about. NFL starting quarterbacks aren't just walking around on the streets these days, so, it's kind of a limited pool to choose from. I don't think we've seen enough of A.J. McCarron in the NFL to really, crown him or write him off. I think he's shown just enough that he can be a competent starter and maybe a lifelong backup. I'm not really sure. I know the market for the quarterback right now is kind of down, so his name has been tossed around with a couple teams and maybe get some opportunities. I'm excited to see what he can do.